Good morning. So I lead a busy life like many of you, and a few weeks ago on my birthday, my friends got me a coupon for a free service, a domestic helper service where they send somebody to your house and they assist you in the house. And it was honestly the first time I was going to try something like that. So I ring up the number. They send a young woman to the house. Her name is Lucy. She comes to the house, and we agree on what she's going to do. She's going to help get some of the tedious tasks that occupy me out of the way. You know, things like, I don't know, doing the laundry, the dishes, cleaning the house, doing these simple things out. And I mean, the idea is, of course, I would be a bit more free to be a bit more social, do the things that really matter, and really just even relax if I need to. And things go out really well. They turn out to be very good. The house is clean. I can host more people and guests. Everything is organized. It's all great. But I don't actually end up going out that much. I just end up slouching on the couch and watching and binge watching Netflix and other things a bit more. But in the end, it's still good, you know, like these tasks that I used to do, I no longer have to do. And then one day, something weird happens. I find out that she knows things that she shouldn't know. So I lost my watch at home, and I go up to Lucy and ask her, "Have you seen my watch?" And she tells me, "Yeah, it's in your locked jewelry box in your locked room. I know that it's there." Well, that's weird. I don't remember ever giving her access to that room. And then she leaves her phone on the table, and I snoop, so I touch the screen. Her wallpaper is pictures of my children. That's weird. I, again, don't remember sharing that with her. So I decide to confront Lucy, and I go up to Lucy and I ask, "Well, I've seen X and I've seen Y on your phone, and I see my children photos." And she said, "Yeah, well, I have hundreds of them. I have some of them when they were kids showering for the first time, and they're on my phone. But don't worry, I only share these photos with other domestic helpers in our company. They don't go out. They're just between us." This, of course, makes me extremely awkward. So I go to the authorities, and I try to say, "Well, I think I'm being robbed at home, and my privacy is being invaded." And they tell me, "Well, we have extreme laws against this, right? Like, if this happens anywhere, it's not acceptable." But no, this domestic helper / cleaning service that you have, that doesn't really fall within our jurisdiction. That's in your private home. What you do there, you need to figure out yourself. We're really sorry. So I'm faced with this really tough choice, and it's not a conscious choice that I have to make. It's a tough choice. I have all of these amazing things that are happening. You know, like I no longer have to do dishes or even order things from the grocery store because she knows what's missing and she orders it for me. But then there are these concerns that I have, and I decide just to live with it. So now Lucy watches me when I sleep. She monitors my heart rate to make sure that I'm okay. Sometimes in the bathroom, you know, when I'm there, she'll be in the room as well, just, you know, occupying me if I'm bored. I mean, this sounds funny, but that's the absurdity of our lives today and the dystopian choices that we've made. We seem not to be able to, we don't hold tech to the same standards that we hold anything else. And we need these anecdotal, fictional settings to try and shed light on where we are today. And this had like extreme ramifications on us, really. I'm going to pick out a focus on children, just a few examples. Our research shows that 69% of Gen Zers skip sleep at least once a week because of their use of tech. Lack of sleep has been strongly correlated with increased risk of cancer. We flash these devices in front of our children, and 30 minutes of screen time has a 50% chance of speech delay. for young children. For me, if you go to a store and you buy a device or a toy, sorry, you'll see an age group restriction on it that says 3 plus or 6 plus or whatever. But we put these VR headsets, and they have guidance on certain ages that you put in. So a VR headset we advise that it should not be used by people who are 12 years old or younger. And then when you read the reasons are eye strain, neck stress, and none of it is about what a VR headset and being connected to a virtual world does to your brain. Our research shows that 40% of people, particularly Gen Zers, have a completely different personality online than they do offline. And any other time in history, I think that would be like cause for concern for schizophrenia. But not today, not with us. And then, as parents, we look at the benefits, right? So we outsource parenting. A third of parents use tech devices to occupy their children on a daily basis. I mean, I'm going to throw an example that I think everyone is guilty of, right? You're on a Zoom call, your kid comes up into the room, he's shouting, you throw an iPad in his face. Just let him occupy himself. You're in an airplane, they start shouting or screaming or crying, you're embarrassed, so you turn on the screen. And this stat was particularly around non-governed, non-parental controlled content, right? So a third of parents are giving their children devices. They don't even know what they're watching or they're doing. It's just outsourcing parenting to tech. What does that mean in an AI world? I'll leave that to you guys to figure out. And what does all of that result in? Probably maybe the most alarming statistic from our research for me, is that 53% of Gen Zers would rather live without a close friend than their phone. Can you imagine, right? And when our researchers meet and do these qualitative interviews, it makes sense. I mean, I love a quote that one of the interviewers said, it's not a cell phone, it's a self phone. It's me, it's everything, it's all my life. That's where tech is basically reality, and reality is my virtual life. It's where I study, it's where my friends are, it's how I connect, it's how I'm cool, it's how I create social status, it's everything. And so we've given tech this opportunity to dominate and intervene. We're really more comfortable with our kids being performers than they are being social beings. So you see the children across the world happy to go in front of a screen, thousands of people of followers, going and acting and portraying a certain image, and then put them in a room with 3 other kids and they won't be able to interact. This is happening now. This is not a doomsday scenario. This is children today. We even have research on Gen Alpha that we do across the world. Kids who are under 12 years old and how their parents talk about what's happening with them. And I want to give another example on the adult side for us. Humanity has always had this right to forget. And I'm going to share a video of something that maybe a few of you have seen. But a woman tragically lost her child who was 8 years old at the time. In the past, when something as tragic happens, what we do usually is, as humanity, we'd consult, console, create support groups, and eventually, slowly, maybe we'll be able to move on. Our reaction today is very different. We allow the woman and the parent to create a full digital construct of her lost child. She puts on a VR headset and is now interacting with a virtually created manifestation of her child, both voice, visual, everything. What happens to humanity when you can't forget? When we lose the right to forget? I think as with all technologies, the premise of this idea is wonderful. It's great. It's amazing benefits. A losing mother being able to connect with her lost child, but haven't really studied what the consequences of that are. I cut the video because I was told maybe it's best not to share the entire video. It could be a bit disconcerting, but you can find that online. And our response to that is that the industry will collect itself. Like, yeah, okay, fine. We've heard this many times before. Every new technology, every development, there's always this concern, it will correct itself. But I don't recall an industry or a time where people who are working on it are shouting out to be regulated. They're not able to work to instill the change internally, and so they're raising their hands, please save us. I was thinking of an analogy of this, and it's not the right analogy, and I'll just mention why, but it's like an alcoholic coming in and really fed up with their lives. And they're coming in for a support group to help them, and our response is like, no, don't worry about it, you'll figure it out. But that example is not really great because the alcoholic is the user. It's actually the brewer coming in and saying, you know what, I don't want to create alcohol anymore, and we're saying, no, don't worry, figure it out, it's okay. And so when we look at the response of the world to this, it seems to be split in half. We see a leniency towards control in the East, where China is pioneering or maybe leading elements of time constraints on technology, age restrictions on technology, even content restrictions on what goes on. And then on the Western side, a more open response. And I'm not here to say which one is right. I don't know which one is right. But the reason why this is a really important conversation now is that we've been doing our research for 3 years now, and the following stat is really the greatest indication that we're at a tipping point. 50% of people say that they'd love to embrace AI, and then 50% say that fear it. We're really at the nexus and the tipping point of this decision. And the time is now to try and be purposeful about our way forward. So I want to talk a bit more about what we do and then maybe conclude with a few ideas going forward. So Ithra and Sync are a nonprofit cultural institution in Saudi. We realize this problem, and you might ask, why would a cultural institution get into this topic of tech and consumption? But really, we're all technologists now. Whether you're a pediatrician, a lawyer, a parent, an artist, whatever, you're a technologist. You're either by usage or creation. And we need to be involved in that conversation. And so we launched this global program a few years ago with many partners, and we try to do 3 things. The first is that we try to do some groundbreaking research in the space, both across the globe, but also on our region. We convene, we hold large gatherings and summits. Last week we had the Digital Wellbeing Summit, 40 countries, 20,000 people came. And then we try to also educate. And the question I got on education is like, what do you educate on? And what are you trying to instill? And I know that the answers are not there, but at least we need to educate on awareness and the conversation. I want to leave you with an example of the kind of things that we produce to try and raise awareness on these topics. This was more on screen time and social media. So again, there might not be clear answers, but I think the problem is very, very clear. I'd say that this is very different to anything else we face because of 3 things. Number 1, it's exponential, and we've heard keynotes yesterday about how exponential it is. 2, it's unforeseeable. We don't know the results of it. And maybe that's true of a lot of technologies, but really the concerns around this are much bigger because of how intertwined it is into our humanity, psyche, psychology, social behavior, even our biology. And then the third is that it's irreversible. I'll leave you with a stat. During COVID, our screen time went up by 2 hours. That's 2 hours more screen time during COVID than we've had in the last 10, 15 years. So when COVID stopped, you'd think that after 15 years of experience or 15 years of practicing something and only a few months of screen exposure, we'd go back to where we are. No, our screen time now is 1 hour above. So although we were able to draw back a little bit, we can't really fully reverse once we embrace this technology. So I want to leave you, everybody here, whether you're a user, a creator, a developer, an enabler, a politician, an advocacy, with this question. The real drive behind this speed race for technology is utility, that it's going to be benefit for humanity, that it's going to make our lives better. And my question is it humanity or utility that should be the priority? I mean, so what if my autonomous car comes in 5 years later? So what if I end up going to the grocery store and shopping on my own rather than my fridge ordering it for the next 3 years? If that improves our chances of mental well-being, of health, even by 5%, that's a bet I'm willing to take. I'm fine. And so for me, it's not humanity or utility, it's humanity over utility. It's not to say that technology is bad. It's just that humanity should supersede and be above that. Thank you.